let's get a little bit more length on the upper back side of the part of the legs in Trikonasana. So take a nice wide stance. And if you know that it works best for you to come to a block, then by all means have a block by your ankles or a little bit closer to your pelvis here. Place your hands right at your hips. Draw your right toes out. Keep both legs straight and pull in so you can get the strong action of the inner thighs. Pull your legs in toward each other before reaching your arms out to open your chest. Keep a nice fullness here in the action. Draw your right hand down to your shin. Take your left hand to your waist. If your block is available, you can use the block. Let's just pause there. So the action of the legs is to squeeze in toward each other, to scissors themselves toward each other. Lift your underside ribs up, your right ribs up, but keep your gaze down toward the floor. As you keep your gaze down to the floor, just start turning your head, but the eyes are still gazing at the floor. Turn your head so that you feel like you can still keep your gaze on the floor. Keep the head of the left arm bone moving back. And just notice how far you can twist. Now, take your gaze up toward the sky and notice how much more you can twist. Open up your pose. Reach your left arm up and just open the chest really nicely, keeping a strong hold of the back heel like we were doing in our other poses. Root down through the back heel to inhale and lift yourself up. Release your hands and come to the opposite side. So turn your right toes in, turn your left toes out. Look at your stance. Make sure it's a good lineup for you. Heel to back arch. Inhale, lift your arms up. Spread your fingers as a way to engage from the spread fingers all the way to the heart and to the pelvis. Draw over with strong actions in the legs. Just find a place for your hand to rest so that your lifted arm can also rest to your low back. And look down toward the floor with your gaze and with the turn of your head. Maybe your hand is more comfortable on the block, or you can keep it on the shin. Lift your underside ribs. Take the head of your right arm bone back. Keep on keeping your gaze to the floor, but start to turn your head. Keeping your gaze at the floor, turn your head as much as possible. Keep the head of the right arm bone back, the head of the left arm bone back. Now reach your gaze up toward the sky. Reach your arm up to the sky. Open the chest really nicely with the fingers spread, with the strength of the back heel, really rooting down nicely. Now get the strength of the back base of the big toe. So the full foot is really engaging nicely. So you can root down through the back foot to inhale and take yourself up out of the pose. Exhale, release your hands down. Step your feet in Tadasana. With the feet hip distance apart, just pause here for a moment. So these actions of the legs, so strong, the action of the heel to have us feel as if we're earthing, we're rooting ourselves so firmly down to bring this felt sense of stability within. You keep that. Now let's face the front of the mat once again. And with your right foot forward, with your left foot back, take a block right parallel to the right ankle. I like it in its tallest position. As we did before, either take your hands to your low back, hold on to your wrists, or somehow just open up first by leaning back toward the back foot. Just open your chest really nicely. Try to keep that sense of openness even as you come to a forward fold. So, with the back foot rooting down, with all the work that you did to stretch the calf muscles, the Achilles tendon, just let the left arm hang down to reach the block. And with the right hand to the low back, look down toward the floor. Try to keep your back heel rooted down. Keep looking at the floor, but start to turn your head. Keep looking at the floor, turn your head more. Keep your back heel planted, and then look toward the sky. So start to move the gaze of the eyes. For most of us, lifting the arm actually causes a little tightness in the neck area. So if that's the case with you, please don't do that. But if you can lift your arm and feel a sense of freedom in the chest, then you've got the fullness of the pose. Root down through the back heel to inhale and lift yourself out of the pose. Step your back foot forward, step your right foot back with your back heel planted. Place your block in some area that feels right for you, or you can take your hand to the shin if you wish. So keep your back heel planted. Take your hands to the low back, or just free your arms if you wish, but open the chest nicely. Take your weight back toward the back foot as a reminder that it anchors you as you come forward, and it becomes kind of a balance pose. So the back foot really has to remember how solid it needs to be before releasing your right hand down to the block. Keep your gaze at the floor. Start to turn your head toward the sky, but keep your gaze on the floor. Keep on turning from the underside ribs, twisting from the underside ribs. So now free your gaze to look up toward the sky. And again, your choice. If you feel like, oh, this side, I should just leave my hand to the low back, then do that. Or if you'd like to free your hand, do that. And slowly park yourselves fully in the resolute quality of the back leg before lifting yourself up out of the pose. Let's come to sit now. So as you sit down, take your feet nice and wide apart in your pose. And in upavista konasana, so the legs are straight. This is a pose that I really like to use instead of pigeon pose because it's a nice hip opener, but some of us cannot do pigeon because of these cranky knees. So with our legs straight, we can get the nice hip opening qualities that pigeon pose gives us. So first, just twist toward your right leg and draw your heart toward your toes. And do the opposite. Twist toward your left leg and draw your gaze toward your toes. And again, twist to the right. Maybe you can go a little deeper. Inhale, twist to the left. And rise up. So today we've done a lot of twisting, a lot of work on the back side of the legs, especially the calf muscles and then the hamstrings. Keep your right leg exactly where it is so the left foot goes down. Take your hands to the outside of your hip area. Keep your legs strong. Now externally rotate your right leg so that the baby toe side of the foot is pressing. Walk your hands around so you're doing this full twisting action. Now blocks can be really useful in this because if you feel like if you're going just a little bit too far, like one side feels a little bit too overstretched, then by all means prop yourself up on blocks. See if you can do more internal rotation on the back leg by pressing into the base of the toes. Press the outer right foot. See if you can press down, press your arms down to lift your pelvis up to get even more internal rotation of the back leg, to get even more external rotation of your right leg. You twist quite a bit here, and yet you just get this nice openness to the hip. So chances are your right ribs feel a lot lower than your left ribs. So see what you can do to get this lifting quality of the right ribs and this kind of softening quality of the left ribs. Keep your legs very active as you use your arms now to inhale and lift yourself up back to upavista konasana. And same thing, we'll just get a little bit more freedom here as we draw over to the left and back. And when you twist like this, you feel the opposite hip point lift up. See if you can keep it down because we're not going deep in these twists. We're just kind of getting our side body ready for the pose. Just go from one side to the other, but slowly, very slow flowing action. We'll be twisting over to the left side, so the left foot, left leg has to stay very solid. So as you twist to the left side, you internally rotate the back leg so much, right? So that right hip will come up. You externally rotate the left leg as you take your hands down in this twist. Keep your legs straight and strong, kind of hugging in toward each other like we were doing in the standing poses. See if you can internally rotate your back leg so much that you can tuck your toes under. With that very strong internal rotation and the back toes tucked under, press into the back toes to help lift your pelvis up slightly to adjust your pose to go even deeper. You may want to try that a few times because it just helps you really align the left leg and the right leg nicely as you tuck your toes under. Even the base of the right baby toe is pressing down to lift your pelvis up. You twist a little bit more. You bring the left side ribs up. The right ribs just kind of soften down. And on the next inhale breath, lift yourself up to come out of the pose. For those of us that have had knee injuries, I find this is a really good practice to have a pigeon pose alternative with straight legs where your knees are not weight bearing. You don't have to do a lot of knee flexion, and yet you can get a lot of hip opening in the action. But first, it is really important to do poses that prepare you. Trikonasana, Parvrtta Trikonasana, different ways to work the hip area first. But you don't have to come through downward facing dog. It was really fun for me to come up with this because I found that in downward facing dog, the traditional classical way to come into this pose, it was very hard for me to create Brigid's cross from that method. But by coming from upavista konasana, I was really able to refine the pose. Thanks so much. Namaste.